Okay, so good morning all. In today's lecture, I will discuss about the data analytics life cycle discovery. My voice is clear and the PDF is visible to everyone. Please use the chat box to reply and post your messages. My voice is clear. Okay. So yes, okay. So let us summarize brief from the last one. So uh, we had discussed about the data analysis framework. A data analytics framework will contain various phases. These phases are responsible for data discovery, data aggregation, planning of the data model execution, communication of the result, and operation. So basically, what we are trying to cover here that whatever the phases will require as a data analytics developer software. These phases are basically related to finding out the domain area where we want to perform our data analytics, and after that we'll discover the resources because finding out the correct data is also important. So sometimes it's not feasible that we have accurate data, and genuine and accurate data will always benefit our applications and data analytics to make a more accurate prediction or classification. So basically, we have to deal with the approaches which is responsible for finding the data. Aggregating the data means if you are having a data from various sources, then how can you aggregate all those data at a one place? Then we have to decide the data model. So data model is also depends on the various factors. For example, if you are having a online platform for your product and services, then your data model must be very much uh, supported to the online platform. If you are working for an like organization that is responsible for security and related services, then you will find out that these securities will play an important role in data analytics. So your data model must be risk averse, means whatever the data model you are applying, that will be very much uh, contain the risk model. After that, we'll go for the data model execution. Uh, then I will perform the get the result and how you are going to represent the result to the user. That is also important. So after we had discussed about these phases of data analytics life cycle. So these phases are completely, you can start from backward, you can start to go forward, or you can perform the iterative process. It's there is a no predefined restriction on this data analytics life cycle. So where you have started your analysis, you can go forward and backward. Then we had discussed about some stakeholders of our data analytics project. Some of them are business analytics, business intelligence analyst, data engineer, database administrator, project manager, an executive project sponsor, and a data scientist. So I think all of you have very much clear the perspective what is this business analyst. So basically, a business analyst define the matrix and result from the data science project. So you will find out that basically Basically, your business analyst can define the metrics. So basically, it will define the parameters on which you are going to perform your data analytics, and whatever the result you are getting from your data analytics, that result will be also defined. So basically, when you're performing analytics on any businesses, you must be assured that what is the prospect of the business, what is the vision of a business, what the business stakeholders require from some data, and what are their decision process. So all these will keep must be incorporated in by the business analyst, and they can be used as a metrics for analyzing the data analytics and so on. Uh, Business analytics must be involved from the starting phase of data analytics. So, when you are planning a business and you want to make sure that data analytics must be fruitful the business. So, at this the starting age of the data analytics project, your business analytics must be involved. The project sponsor identifies these business quantum, gets involved on the requirement gathering stages. Same as the business analyst, project sponsor also should be involved inside the starting phase of the data. Means project sponsor identify the collection phases of the data, we are going to collect the data, and from which resources we are going to refer the data. Project manager ensures there is a quality in the deliverables of the final data product, ensure to deliver the project on time, on budget, leveraging all the resources on the project. So, as a traditional project manager, you will find out that project manager responsibility is to ensure the quality of the project. So, as a our traditional software development project manager is also always responsible for the quality of the project and also the final project output. And as a software industry, there is a task which is a time based. So we have to work in a time bound manner. So project delivery on the time is a very much important aspect of software development, and same is also applicable in data analytics project. So project manager responsibility is somehow the same as the software development. Then business intelligence analyst is the expert stakeholder in building and defining the dashboard and key performance indicator of the organization. So uh, key performance indicator for any businesses must be defined by business intelligence analyst. So suppose you having a key performance indicator as a customer satisfaction. So how are you going to identify satisfied customer? What are the parameters you are going to apply for that? That is a part of a business intelligence analyst. The database administrator configure the database and provision the services to data analytics team, including granting the authorization. So as we are already aware about the database, it is basically storing our data, and database administrator responsible for uh, to providing efficient database mechanism, database process where we are easily access our data, we are easily store our data without any problem. So these tasks will require to configure the database and to make a rules and regulation for the services. And data analytics team must include a database administrator for this type of task. Next one is we as a data engineer, you have to be aware about the SQL server, and database queries, how you are going to handle the database, how you are going to handle the queries on the database, and so on. So, life cycle of the data analytics lays out the framework for best practices. So, basically, data analytics life cycle is designed to follow the best practices in data analytics project, so that we are going to get a project which will satisfy all the stakeholders, will be complete in time, and must satisfy the quality and other parameters defined by the business intelligence and business intelligence analytics. The framework was established after serving a large number of data scientists that make up the data science team. So basically, when we are designing any framework for data analytics, it will be performed using the data analytics and other form of team members. One moment. So sorry for inconvenience. Am I audible? Am I audible? Hello. Am I audible, better? Okay, please write in the chat box. Okay. So we are continuing. So when we are designing a framework, it is established by providing a survey. So in the survey, we'll take the feedback from various stakeholders. We'll develop some question answer, and we'll perform the survey on the large number of data scientists, are the people who are related to the data analytics projects, and based on that, we'll design our framework. So these are some approaches which is considered for building the data analytics lifecycle framework. These approaches can be, but not limited to, scientific method, KCS, Delta framework, applied information economics, and math skills. So we'll discuss about these approaches in later stages. Data is a life cycle discovery. So first phase is a discovery phase. So in a discovery phase, our data analytics team learns the business domain. So we need to be find out what is the business domain, how it will work, and what are the priority of the business domain, how it is different from the other businesses, and so on. Including relevant history. So we should also aware about the history of the businesses, its past performance, its past stakeholders, and so on. Whether the organization or business unit has attempted a similar project in the past from which they can learn. Okay, so that businesses from the history and domain of the businesses can find out the required information about the similar project from the past, and all this exercise will develop a learning environment for a business analytics team. During the phase of data discovery, the stakeholder constantly analyze the business trend, similar data analytics, case study, and domain of the business industries. So let us discuss with an example. Suppose we are having an e-commerce platform. So how can we analyze the business trend? So, to analyze a business trend, you can collect the data from the customer uh, purchase history, customer feedback, customer current comment, and from that on, you can find out what are the trends of the businesses, what are the popular products which is in a higher selling order, which are having higher selling order, the products which are not favorable among the customer, which combination of the product are being selected by the customer. So based on that, you can define the business trend. Sometimes these businesses trend are depend on the cycle of the businesses. So suppose you are in some business cycle of the businesses. For example, sometimes the businesses are favorable, getting momentum in a festive season. So these festive season create a business trend for that particular businesses. After that, we can go for the data analysis case studies. So for that, you can refer the other case studies which is done and performed by the data scientist, and based on that case study, you can draw some conclusion. You can draw some study from that, and from that study, you can develop a learning, and from that learning, you can apply outcome in your own data analytics project. And after that, we can go for the domain of business industries. So if you are learning about the e-commerce platform, so domain of the business study is also important, because as we knew that from the earlier session, businesses, e-commerce businesses was not popular among the everyone. But recently, in this decade, you can find out that due to availability of digital infrastructure, due to accessibility of internet at a lower cost, due to accessibility of internet devices to a large scale of population, e-commerce platform businesses are growing. Earlier, consumer were only prefer to buy the product from an offline store, but now we are moving towards to change our consumer behavior, and we are moving from offline to the online. And assessment is done on in the in-house resources. So in-house resources means suppose you have in-house a data set where you are having some data related to the product, services, and data related to the consumer preferences, data related to monthly sales, annual sale, and daily sale order, and data related to the payment way of the customer. So these in-house resources will be uh, work as a base resource for performing the assessment, and so on. And our infrastructure and technology will also helpful here. Once the evaluation is complete, the stakeholder begin to build the hypothesis for resolving the critical business concerns, keeping the view of the customer experience and market. So when we have performed the assessment on our data, we can develop an hypothesis. So what is an hypothesis? Basically, you will draw an conclusion. You will perform some uh, prediction based on that. You can that will prediction of conclusion will help you to find out the future trend or the future businesses regarding the e-commerce platform. So these hypotheses must incorporate the customer experience and the market trends and so on. Next page is a data preparation. So data preparation requires the presence of an analytics sandbox in which the team can work with data and perform analytics for the duration of the project. So basically in data preparation, data project team will work on the data which is collected in the data discovery phases, and these data can be from various resources and so on. So it is necessary that we should prepare the data for performing the data analytics on those data, because collecting the data from different resources is will having a different data features, and sometimes so much noise is contained inside the data. So it is required by the data analytics team that these data will have be processed for the further data analytics approaches. So we'll perform the analytics for the duration of the project. Once the discovery is complete with a walkthrough of the business, model, matrix, and result, the data aggregation occurs during the preparation phase by transferring the data from legacy systems, the target data analytics platform. Okay, so when our discovery of the data means we are finally finished the collection of the data, then we'll define the matrices and result on those data discoveries. Then the data aggregation will occur during the preparation phase by transforming. So basically, if we are collecting the data from resource, then data will have a different features, and based on that target platform, we can convert those data features into what for that is suitable to a target data analytics platform. Most of the stakeholders involved during this stage to pave the way for processing and conditioning the data for preliminary result from the sandbox. So basically, all the stakeholder which is involved will provide some conditions, or will provide some suggestion for processing of the data, so that our primary result will be as per the expectation. Now we'll move towards our next phase, that is a model planning. So model planning, the team determines the method, technique, and workflow it intends to follow for the subsequent model building phases. So basically we'll define some method for our data analytics. We'll define some math techniques, we'll define workflow, so that we are able to find out whatever the aim and target of our business analytics, and how these methods and techniques are beneficial to the organization. The data science team, including the stakeholders, build the framework for model building by determining the technique and method, particularly addressing the business problem. So, when we're designing a model, we need to make sure what are the problem of the businesses, how they are tackling those problems in earlier phases of the businesses, and now how they are going to incorporate that businesses problem in their own side. So basically, data science team with the stakeholder build a framework for model at this phase, and basically they are developing a technique and method to address those issues. The team explore the data to learn about the relationship between variable, and subsequently selects key variable and the most suitable models. So basically, in this data model planning, we learn about the relationship between the variables, and there are various ways to find out how to assess the relationship between the various variable, and whatever the key parameters that is required for accessing the relationship. So why is it important? Because as you know that when we are accessing some data, we are trying to predict, or we are trying to classify some information from that. So it is only possible when we are able to have some relationship between different data sets, different data variables. If we are able to find out those relationships, so based on that relationship, we can find out what will be the behavior and what is the hidden pattern or what will be the pattern inside the data. In model planning phase, business problem is clearly emphasized. So basically, we are more focused on the business problem distributed across the department, breaking the data. So whatever the different departments inside a organization will divide the problem into that. We'll introduce the scientific method and corresponding key parameter variables are selected at this stage to solve the business problem. So we have to define the key parameter variable, and we have to define the scientific method that is required to solve the problem. Without the discovery phase and data preparation, uh, premeditated selection of scientific method will not apply to the business problem. So without the discovery phase and data preparation, our model planning is not able to be come into the picture. Why? Because we have to define some method and some approaches inside the data discovery and data preparation, and that also will helpful to designing a model planning. Okay, so our next one is model building. So basically, model building phase develops data set for testing, training, and production purposes. So what is a data set for testing? So actually, when we are having a data set for data analytics, then we have to perform training on the data set. Then we have to perform testing on the data set, and then we have to perform validation on the data set. So why is it these phases are important? Because suppose you're having a data set related to the consumer expenditure on an e-commerce website, then you will perform the training on those data set to train your model. So you will provide the data as a feed to your model, and your model will train on that. But is your model is working or correctly predicting based on that training data set? For that, you will require a testing data set. So testing data set will also require for that, and so on. Next, model building builds and executes model based on the work done in the model planning phase. So basically, it will execute the model, which is output of our model planning phases. And next, consider whether its existing tools will suffice for running the model, or it will need a more robust environment for executing model and workflows. Okay, so we'll define the environment here inside the model building, and we'll find out that particular environment for executing our model is sufficiently okay or not. After that, we'll go for the communication of the result. So uh, inside the result communication in our data analytics life cycle. So basically, communication is important because when you are having some result, you are having some output. Then how you are going to represent that output to your stakeholders, that is also important, because your stakeholder is very much responsible and very much know about what is they must aware about what is the outcome of your data analytics project. Because if you are having a very good output, you are having a very you have performed rigorous practices on your data set, and you have provided some useful information to the stakeholders. But if you're not able to communicate the result, then that is of no use. So communication is another vital methodology involving all the stakeholders to build a data-driven organization by infusing the data analytics culture into all the departments. So basically, when we are talking about the organization, it is made from the various departments, and these departments have a different cultures. They have a different objective. Their task is different. Their performance is a different. They are having their own uh, points and so on. So when we are dealing with the communication between the different department, so we must aware about what is data analytics, how they are, how we are going to connect them with our own result. So basically, we are designing a data-driven organization where every part of the organization is somehow related to our data analytics project, and whatever the result based on that they will going to get on. For example, suppose we are having an e-commerce website and we are having a sales department and we are having a inventory department. So suppose you are having some product and services are having a great sale, and then based on that data you can inform the sales department to so that they can inform the logistic department, and based on that data you can also inform the inventory department so that inventory department can increase the inventory of particular product and services. Sales department can increase their sales workforce to in order to tackle the scaling of the data, and the logistics department will handle all the product and delivery of all the product and services. So based on this data driven organization we can perform the various or differences of the we can come up a solution with that will solve the differences between the various departments of the organization. The stakeholder of data science project summarizes the lesson learned from the project. So, stakeholder, as we have earlier discussed, it can be our data and business analytics, business intelligence analysis, data scientist, data engineer, business administration. So basically, all these stakeholders will provide their final conclusion from learning from their project, whatever the outcome, and they will also provide the matrices they have used for their project to measure the performance of the project. So basically, stakeholders is also responsible so that they can provide whatever the process they have applied during the data analysis project, and whatever the output they have faced from this data analytics project and so on. In collaboration with major stakeholders, determines if the result of the project are a success or a failure based on the criteria developed in discovery. So when we are performing the discovery phases, you will define business goals, business all the stakeholders goal and so on, and based on that vision and goal, you can define that particular project is satisfying that particular regulation domain or not. If it is satisfying the particular business or goal and aim, then definitely that project is a success, otherwise it is a failure. If we discuss this in an e-commerce platform, then a successful data analytics project must increase the revenue of the e-commerce platform, must provide the most customer satisfaction and so on. So the team should identify key finding, quantify the business value, and develop a narrative to summarize and convey finding to the stakeholder. So in communication result, finally your data analyst team must identify the key findings, whatever their result, their outcome from data analytics, and must quantify the business value. So business value can be non-quantified item, but you have to provide some measurement here. We have because we have to measure the business growth. We have to measure the customer satisfaction. We have to measure the stakeholders satisfaction, and you have to quantify all these information and develop a narrative to summarize and convey finding to the stakeholders. So after data analytics uh, project, team will conclude with some summary, and these summary will be shared with the stakeholders so that they can get the uh, final output of our data communication. So the last phase of data analysis life cycle is operationalization. So in operationalization, the team delivers final report. So final report is the outcome of all the previous phases, briefings, code, and technical document. So when we perform data analytics, these are the all information which is outcome of the all previous stages. And also team may run a pilot project to implement the models in a production environment. So team can run a small project, or we can say a sample project, so that they can test that the model is workable in a production environment or not, whether it is up to the mark of the stakeholders, whether it is satisfying all the criteria set by the stakeholder or not. So we have to basically it is also like a testing our own model, or testing our all own effort, which is performed by the business analytics team. Stakeholder operationalize the result from the sandbox and plan to deploy the data science project into quality and subsequently operationalize into the production environment. So basically all these tasks which we have performed till now will be incorporated inside the organization so that they can be beneficial to the organization. The stakeholder of the project team document the code build, technical specification, and functional specification. So we have to perform the documentation for our code. We have to perform the documentation of our technical specification, and we have to perform the documentation for functional specification, data flow diagram, data aggregation model, and so on. So basically, these are the phases of our data analytics life cycle. Let us summarize it. So these phases is involve the discovery of the data, where we'll find out what is the uh, stakeholder requirement, what is the business trend, what are the resources, data resources. After that, will we prepare the data for the further phases. So in the data analytics phases, we'll define the models, matrices, results. We'll convert our source data to the target platform data. In model planning phases, we'll define our model that is relevant to the organization. We'll define the relationship between the variable. We'll define the method, technique, and workflow. In a model building phases, we'll define the testing, training, and execution environment of the model, workflow of the model. In a communication phases, we'll provide the summary of the model. We'll define data-driven organization, where all the department of the organization must be in a frequency to the organization. And the last will share the report, will finalize all the effort inside the document, and will share all these report with our own different stakeholders. Okay, guys. So I think I will cover this topic today, and in the next class we'll go for the data models. I will find out that what are the different data models and how they are important for our data analysis life cycle. Okay, so I will give you some question answer. Please write down the role of data analytics for an organization, and you can paste your output inside the chat box. Okay, so if anyone wants to discuss that, he can unmute himself or herself, and can express their ideas. So I'm stopping the recording. Thank you.